Sometimes people throw away something good for something better, only to find out later that good was actually good enough and better never even came close. Cruel Summer, available on Hulu, premiered April 20th of this year. It's an American thriller depicting the story of the kidnapping of popular Kate Wallace and the involvement of awkward Jeanette Tucker in a fictional Texas town. The entire episode focuses on 3 days: Jeanette's birthday in 1993, 1994, and 1995, taking us down memory lane. The episode opens in 1993 when she is woken up for her 15th birthday by her loving parents. She spends the day celebrating with her friends on a scavenger hunt where she runs into Kate Wallace, who is very obviously of a much higher social status than Jeanette. After making small talk, Kate is distracted by her boyfriend Jamie, and Jeanette continues with her friends. They end up playing hide and seek in a house that Jeanette's father just sold, and while looking for her friends, Jeanette runs into the new owner of the home and new assistant principal at her school, Martin Harris. In 1994, Kate is officially missing, and Jeanette quickly filled in her social role. She doesn't hang out with her old friends anymore and has traded them for a more popular crowd. She's dating Kate's old boyfriend Jamie and is completely immersed into her new life. Besides the lingering idea of what happened to Kate, life seems to be going really well for Jeanette. But by 1995, things have made a drastic change. Jeanette is woken up on her birthday by a now displeased and divorced father, telling her one of her lawyers is there to see her. She has become the most hated person in America. It is full of twists and turns that we're not even close to unraveling yet. So I opened Hulu and I saw Cruel Summer was one of the recommended that came up. It's a new series, and I read a lot and I love psychological thrillers, and I noticed that was a big aspect of it, and also true crime. Even though it's not based on a true story, it kind of has like that vibe to it. So I was interested in it, and so whenever you guys asked what I wanted to pick, I just added that to my list. So I thought that would be a good choice that maybe you guys wouldn't hate too much.
Don't act like you can read.
Just put on a brave face, everybody. It's fine.
Smile through the tears. In the morning.
Thinking about so many things.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not something I probably would have watched on my own, and I kind of went into it with that in mind. I was like, this is totally not my thing, and I really liked it. Yeah. For sure. I think, again, as of, like with the last episode, this had like a pretty cool cast of like young actors in it. One of them being Kevin Smith's daughter was in it. That was kind of neat.
Really?
Yeah, she had kind of like a lead role, Mallory. So Harley Quinn Smith.
Pull up the cast list.
Is his daughter, yeah. And she played Mallory in the show. And I thought she did a really good job. I think...
Who did she play? Mallory? I'm pulling up the cast list. I'm not seeing... Let's see, full cast. Is that Harley Quinn Smith? Oh, she's the fuck... Okay.
Yeah.
That's Kevin Smith's daughter?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Mind blown right there.
I think this is like kind of one of the first kind of bigger roles she's had that I've noticed.
Really?
Yeah. And maybe, I think she was in that reboot of the Jay and Silent Bob as well.
Oh, she's the best friend. Yeah, okay. Wow. Yeah, that's surprising.
Yeah. But yeah, right off the bat, I really liked the cinematography, and it was cool, like how it kind of jumped between it was like 3 years, wasn't it? And it almost felt like it was 3 different characters, and at first I was like asking my girlfriend, I was like, is this the same person? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, wow. You know, because it was like really kind of black and white, even like it was like, 1993, 94, 95, right? So like the 95... like cinematography, like it was really dark, and like even like a blue filter on like the filming and stuff, and just kind of set like a different vibe and stuff. As for the first one, like the earlier year, you can see like she had a different life, and even her parents were kind of like interacting with her differently, and it was really interesting. I liked it.
What year were you born, Landry?
94.
So yeah, I mean you barely even remember this time in the world.
Yeah, I remember some of it. No.
When you picked this episode for us to watch, I was not, I was kind of expecting So just a little backstory about the podcast. At first, when Landry approached me about this, she wanted to do what was it, the Mean Girl, or no, not Mean Girls. What was the thing you wanted to do?
Love is Blind, or what?
Or no, the podcast theme, Frenemies or something.
Yeah.
She was wanting to do a Frenemies podcast, and so I was like expecting something like that. And I mean, honestly, I don't even know what Frenemies is. I'm sure we'll eventually have to watch something. But
we stand Trisha Paytas on this podcast.
Oh God!
So I was expecting something super kind of flowery, and I mean, there's nothing really wrong with that kind of thing, but it just isn't necessarily my cup of tea. But this was kind of not a unique story, right? Like, it's not that unique of a story, but the way it was told, I was honestly super impressed by, like Mikey was just saying, we start off with this one girl at 3 different parts in her life, 1 year apart each. And it's kind of like a before, during, and after scenario of what happens in the show, or at least what I'm pretty sure ends up happening. I will say I'm a little skeptical about what the show will become. Is it supposed to be a limited series, Landry? Do you know? Or is it going to be like a continuous?
Yeah.
I do know that I was having those same concerns because I was like, this, like, I'm really enjoying it so far.
Like,
but
where does it go?
They
from
could
here?
really, they could really ruin this entire show if they.
Yeah, this could have been like a movie, right? Like, I'm skeptical because Americans have this issue with American TV is like never ending. You look at The Walking Dead or the Game of Thrones, several seasons. When I think perfectly fine, a show can be a limited series like you'd see with a lot of British comedy or British TV shows. One good example of that was the Queen's Gambit. Did y'all watch that?
No, I love Shonda Rhimes though, so that's on my list.
It's super good, especially like if you're into chess at all and you like the actress, definitely check it out. But anyways, that's a limited series, so it's like I think 10 episodes in total. And then the show's done. I would be skeptical to see where the show goes just because of the way the story seems like once the main drama unfolds or the main arc unfolds, what else could there possibly be that we would even begin to care about?
Yeah.
But getting into it, I was incredibly impressed. I loved the storytelling of that 3 different years.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this until you were saying it. I watched it while I was working out this morning. But you were right, they kind of had a dark on the 3rd year, because the 3rd year is the after year, or the after everything, where she's dealing with the main character. What's her name?
Jeanette.
Jeanette, yeah. Olivia Holt, or not Olivia Holt, I'm sorry. Sierra, maybe?
Jeanette.
No, the
actress. No, I was looking at the actress's name. The actress, super talented, by the way. When the character Jeanette is dealing with the aftermath of it, it was like everything looked darker. The first year was real bright, just kind of hopeful even. And it was a little bit of a predictable story. I sort of understood pretty quickly what was happening. And it had very like a Mean Girls vibe.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And just even the 3 friends, the girl best friend and the guy best friend that... I mean, the guy wasn't, I don't think the guy, because they said that the guy was like, he liked Jeanette, so I don't think that he was homosexual, but, it just made me really think of the Mean Girls when that was going on.
Vincent. What was his name?
Vince.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that kid. Yeah, I liked it. I definitely thought it was going to be stupid, but I enjoyed what...
There were some parts where it kind of set it up like it was trying to get you to, like, think, oh, maybe, like... the boyfriend maybe did something, or like maybe because there was like that weird gunshot at one point, and like he's like, oh, it's nothing, or whatever, it kind of blows it off.
And
that's the first one.
Welcome to Texas, they said.
Yeah. Right. Is it 4th of July, or is it just gunshots?
Yeah. So I honestly we have completely different like how we like process like watching a series or a movie. I was like, yeah, it would just kind of broke it down into 3 different years. And I noticed I always, in episodes or just like shows like this, I always think it's like the red herring. I was like, yeah, it was the boyfriend. The boyfriend's sus. Yeah, I'm always wrong. I went to a murder mystery dinner one time, and I was like, immediately, I was like, it's definitely that guy. And at the end, when they were like about to announce it, they're like, it could be the very obvious like choice that we would want you to think it was. And they said that person, and I was like, who would think it was him? Right?
Right.
So I'm really bad.
It's always who you most medium expect.
Yeah.
The butler or the maid.
Yeah. Literally me. That's me in these shows. So I am still like, everything you guys are talking about, I absolutely noticed. And I just I'm not like as detail oriented as you guys when it comes to shows. But I did notice with is this a spoiler section or no?
No,
okay.
We'll do the spoilers at the second half.
Okay. But yeah, I did pick up on some stuff that I come to find out was true, which we'll discuss like later on. But overall, I think that it left a lot of like openings, and I'm really like interested in like how those play out.
Yeah,
for sure. That's one thing I'm super skeptical of. Is like what I've always said that the story, where can it possibly go?
Yeah. That was the first thought too.
And this is already 4 episodes are released so far, right?
I think 3. It just came out on the 20th of April, so it's only been out for about 2 weeks. Super
new show. They probably have already filmed the episodes, because typically shows like this, they kind of do short releases, week to week. Because I'm sure it takes a lot longer than a week to make them, but I hope that they can end it in a timely manner, right? Like I hope they don't just draw the show out to the point where it becomes stale. Like unrelated to the show, but The Handmaid's Tale. That's one that like I feel like they're taking that way too far, way past what the original book was, and it's kind of like just ended already, man. Or even almost The Walking Dead, like just ended.
Is that still on there? Walking Dead?
The Walking Dead, they're still making episodes. I think they're in the final season, or like about to do the final season, but still, like none of the original cast are in that anymore. It's just like it's hard to care about.
They want to move on to other things, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly. Old Norman Reedus, which I love that guy. But all right, so I saw this story. I was watching a Game Ranks video on YouTube, and I saw this story, and I honestly thought that it was one of the weirdest gaming stories I've ever heard. I'm just gonna read this to you. So this was in the news. That let's see where it was. I don't remember specifically where. Utah, in Bountiful, Utah. Police officers in possession of a missing Nintendo Switch decide to have some fun before returning the gaming device to its rightful owners. So basically what happened was these cops found, or someone turned in, somehow someone lost, and then the cops received a Nintendo Switch. So a guy left his Switch in a park, and then the cops got a hold of that somehow. Instead of just immediately finding the guy and giving it back, they went through the games and beat the high scores on every one of his games, and then gave the Switch back to the guy. So, like, obviously it's super cool, but I mean, this is some police violence here.
It's a little uncalled for.
Could you imagine you lose your Switch, finally get it back, and all your high scores are beaten? So they tweeted, it's the Bountiful City Police Department. They said, Mason and Allie, someone found your Nintendo Switch at North Canyon Park and turned it into us. I've beaten your high scores and spent all your gold coins, and I'm bored now, so you can come pick it up. The case number is 211094, and then Jobert or Yabert, whatever the cop's name is. And then he edited it saying it's been claimed.
Good old
it's just
Utah Police Department.
Yeah, it's just right? Yeah. It's just something so ridiculous that, at least the guy gets his Switch back. And I mean, don't you have a Switch, Landry?
Yes, it was really hard for me to get, but I got it.
That's what I'm saying, is they're so hard to get right now. Or I mean, I'm not sure if they still are. For a while there, they were super hard to get.
Expensive.
They just came back out with the Animal Crossing Switch. I don't know. I'm still so mad about it, but yeah.
I can only imagine, the fear of losing your Switch. And then, because I imagine it took him a bit to beat the high scores, and maybe he didn't beat all of the high scores. Speaking of Animal Crossing, actually, hold on. Let me look this up.
While you're doing that, I will say that I bought my Switch at the very beginning of the pandemic, and I just started. I bought my Switch because of Animal Crossing, and I finally played it for the first time the day before yesterday.
You did a good job buying it before the pandemic, because it definitely inflated in price during the whole thing, because everybody's at home and people were playing stuff like that.
Oh, I bought it during.
They were like $500. Some of it was crazy.
That's why I bought mine during, because I was saving up, and the whole thing was the new Animal Crossing was coming out, and I was saving for the Animal Crossing Switch, and I didn't know that they were, and I should have known too. I'm a new gamer, like I've said before. I don't know about release dates. I'm like, yeah, it comes out on this date. I'll go to the store and grab one. I've got the money for it. Yeah. No, that's not how it works with limited edition exclusives. No. Please. So, and also they released the Switch a week before the actual game, which the nice gentleman at GameStop told me whenever I went to go buy it, and he was like, "You're here for what?" And I was like, "Yeah, you know the Animal Crossing Switch? Separate. Yeah, nobody plays that game. Absolutely not." He was like, yeah, those have been sold out online.
It's a super popular game.
Yeah, I had no idea. I was still playing a DS at that point. So,
I've actually had a Wii U Wind Waker edition, and then I had the Link Between Worlds DS edition. I still have both of them. So I was wrong. It wasn't Animal Crossing that I remembered this from. So I saw this on Reddit the other day, or it was actually a while back. Story of Seasons, which is actually basically what Harvest Moon became, I believe. It became Story of Seasons. And Harvest Moon, Landry, is
I love
the spiritual precursor. Have you played that? Yeah. So that's what Stardew Valley became. Basically, Stardew Valley is the spiritual successor to Harvest Moon. In the new Story of Seasons video game, if you get married, you can have children, like most of those kinds of games. However, if you get divorced in the game, you have to murder your children.
Wait, what?
Yes, fuck them kids.
When you get murdered or when you get divorced in the game, your kids just vanish. They vanish. You don't get rid of them. You don't they just disappear. And then if you can get remarried eventually to the same character even that you divorced, and no one brings up the kids. They're just gone.
This is a Harvest Moon?
The Story of Seasons. Oh. Yeah, I mean Harvest Moon, basically. It's the pioneers of Olive Town.
Okay.
The new one. Yeah.
What the hell? That's
first new game crazy. In the series since 2016. Yeah. Isn't that such a weird oversight?
Back in my day, the worst thing you could do was stay out too late, and you'd have to be stuck in bed the next day on Harvest Moon. Or you garden, you farm too hard in the rain, and you had to miss a whole day.
Which Harvest Moon did you play? On what system?
My PlayStation 2. I remember, I don't know if you guys we're all kind of from the same area, but Hastings used to be a big thing here. It was they sold movies, books, and there was a coffee shop. And I remember we went there, and I was digging through the clearance bin, and I saw, which one was, I'm going to have to actually look it up. It was Harvest Moon, A New Beginning, maybe? And it was on clearance for $9.99. And so I went to my dad, and I was like, Dad, I will play it, blah blah blah, because we had a garden and stuff at the time. I was I will never. It was not A New Beginning. I'll have to look. But yeah, so I convinced him to get it for me. It was super cheap. It didn't take a lot, but still, I loved. Oh my god, I fell in love with it. And then I think A New Beginning was the one I got after that. And then, which was the more complex one. The first one I had was very, very simple. Mm-hmm. And then I think I had one on maybe my Game Boy. And yeah, I was always a big Harvest Moon fan. I stumbled across it by accident, but yeah, I definitely. And then Darth, you actually put me on Stardew Valley because you told me it was by the same creator, I believe. Yeah,
well, no, it's not the same creator. It's the same idea. It's it's like I said, it's the spiritual successor to it. Speaking of Stardew Valley, last episode we talked about, you said at first Chucklefish, and then you're like, oh, I'm sorry, it's Concerned Ape. Concerned Ape is the developer. Chucklefish was the distributor, and then they also did the ports for the console.
Okay. I figured they had some kind of hand in it. They do kind of similar
I forgot to
games.
tell you, but I forgot to tell you. I was going to tell you about that the other day. But the first time I played Harvest Moon, I believe, was the Nintendo 64 at Mikey's house. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. We had that one that had like maybe there were I think there were like 2D characters, and then there was another one that was like 3D that wasn't as good, but it was still kind of neat to play around in like a 3D environment.
So the one that we played is very similar to like what Stardew. I mean, obviously it's way more simplistic than Stardew is, but that's that was one of the things that turned me on to Stardew, because that was like the only Harvest Moon I had really played was that one.
It was kind of cool for its time. I had like some dynamic weather and stuff. I remember like couldn't your like greenhouse blow away and stuff, and like stuff like that.
And then I remember the they had the marriage system obviously, and then all the crops, the farm animals, pretty similar to what I guess you would see now.
So normally we would do like a today years old kind of thing, but I had some like shower thoughts for you, like the weird things you think about when you're taking a shower. Yeah, right.
For sure.
Let's have them. Let's hear it.
So when you go to a store and you buy I don't know, some chicken legs, a half a chicken or something, you take it home and you cook it and eat it. Technically, you're sharing a meal with another stranger, because they're going to buy the rest of that chicken at some point, and they're eating it as well. And that's kind of something to think about.
It's kind of romantic if you think about it.
I wonder if the rest of that chicken is at that store.
I think about these kind of things a lot. I also think about the pieces of chicken that are in the package. Is that the same chicken, or is it like 4 other chickons? Who knows?
Well, I mean, if you buy a pack of chicken breasts and it's more than 2 breasts, then no, it's at least 2 chickens.
I was like, what kind of hormones?
There's no Total Recall chickens running around, 3-breasted chickens. Or you buy like a pack of chicken legs, There's no centipede chickens. That'd be the stuff of nightmares.
That would be.
Like, that's like a Tim Burton chicken or something.
And also, think about this. Your belly button. It's just your old mouth.
I hate belly buttons. Oh my god.
That's disgusting.
I hate belly buttons.
I do too.
When you're in the womb,
that's disgusting.
That's just how you ate, It's your feeding tube.
your feeding tube. That reminds me of an old riddle. You find a man and woman frozen in ice. How do you know that they're Adam and Eve?
How's that?
They don't have belly buttons.
Oh, okay.
They would have been the first man and woman. Yeah.
Why did I think that? I'd be like, or they could be colics. Why?
I don't really like
watch that.
I don't like belly buttons either. They kind of freak me out. Like touching my own just like freaks me out. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Some people can get an infection in the belly button that'll make them bleed. I think it's more common in children, since they're still technically healing in that area. But I saw a thing on it once on Reddit. I do a lot of just hours-long deep dives on Reddit stuff, and you'll see disgusting things like that. But they'll bleed out of their belly button.
Ugh.
It sounds just horrifying. Horrifying.
That does sound
What about Audi
disgusting.
belly buttons? Have you guys ever been?
I've seen them, but like in shape people typically have I've got like a cavernous heavy fella belly.
You could stick like half a finger in there.
Could store stuff. You got to clean it out at the end of the day.
My son has a little bit of an Audi. I don't really know why. I'm just kind of
that may go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's still like. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience in babies or
plays
children.
With it, and I hate it. I'm like, don't do that. And he's like, and I'm like, no, stop.
Oh my god.
When I was younger, my cousin told me if you touch your belly button, it'll cause cancer. And for whatever reason, I just took the word as gospel. And I am not a fan of I don't know. I don't want people to touch my belly button. I touch it to clean it, and that's it.
I think you or your dad or one of your dad's friends told me that if you unscrew your belly button, there's a screw in there that your butt falls off. When I was little, it was somebody in your family that told me that. I can't remember. But there was a screw in your belly button, and if you unscrewed it, your butt falls off.
Oh my Lord. I'm gonna have to, I didn't even think about that. I'm gonna have to send my dad this podcast and see if he knows if he knows about that. I don't remember ever hearing that, and I've got a weird lizard brain, so maybe it's not.
Somebody at your house told me that. I don't know who it was. It might have been your cousin, it might have been your brother.
Lord knows. That's so funny.
Okay, so we're moving into the spoiler section of the discussion, and I did want to start it by saying that we are going to be talking about some things that could be triggering. So some of the trigger warnings are domestic violence, sexual abuse, kidnapping, and I'm probably going to have to add some more later, but those are just off the top of my head, the types of things that we're probably going to be discussing in relation to this episode. But as we kind of talked about earlier, the beginning of the episode is kind of like this picture perfect family, right? It's a 15-year-old girl, like nerdy, awkward girl waking up on her birthday. Her loving parents are there, wishing her happy birthday. Like everything's great. She's got like her nerdy friends and they're doing their thing. And everything just...
It's like heartbreakingly nerdy too. Like... It's the 90s, so obviously the nerd culture wasn't what it was today, but like she's very aware of it. I remember at one point she says I think it was about her brother not wanting to be there. He's like, well, I wouldn't want to spend the day with my nerdy sister too. Right. And there's a couple of other things she says. It's like, man, just give it a couple years, kid.
Right, stuff you get hazed for, isn't really stuff people kind of look past now. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, hell, even early 2000s, it wasn't quite as acceptable as it is now. Now that's like a common thing. Kind of everybody's nerdy. We steer into that.
Like D&D is popular and, stuff like that. And even like video games that weren't really cool back in the day,
Mm-hmm. So, 1993, obviously, nuclear family. Yeah, I would say just like happy. Obviously, she's aware of her nerdiness, but it's kind of, there's not a lot of like, doom kind of like lingering. 1994, she's kind of got the picture perfect life. She's with her boyfriend at the time, Jamie.
Yeah, her boyfriend wakes her up too.
Yeah.
He's like, I had to arm wrestle your dad to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Life's still good, everything's still going great. She goes to the mall with her friends, right? And then she runs into her old friends who are still, well, not still, but who are obviously, one of them is obviously still a little upset and kind of jealous over what has happened in the past year. They kind of talk about that beforehand, how she's not the same and how, like, ever since that summer, things have completely changed for her. And her old guy friend is still in love with her, very obviously. And even when her friend publicly kind of embarrasses her in the middle of the mall, kind of makes fun of her and kind of berates her, she still is... She
hits her with that swerve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was...
Gives her the hug. Just the look on her face. Yeah. Old Kevin Smith's daughter's face. That's still blowing my mind a little bit. I feel like I saw her name in the credits too and was like, that's strange. Her name's Harley Quinn Smith.
Yeah, she looks like her mom a lot too.
I can't even think of who her mom would be.
She was in Clerks, I think. Kevin Smith's wife. Okay. I can't remember the character's name. But.
Yeah. But yeah, so you're saying that mall scene, I liked that, the way that they kept going back to that mall sort of. Even in that the post, kind of the post to the, what is it? Was it start in 93, right? Is that what you said? Yeah, so even the 95 scene, she's, I think, sitting outside of that mall when she eats that burger.
Yeah.
But the fact that they keep going back to that mall, I think, is cool. They talk about the necklace that she gets at that first one, and then she's not wearing it in the 94. And then I think they're alluding to that necklace in the 95 when she's talking to her lawyers. The one, I think it's the same necklace that her friend gave her, Mallory, her friend gave her, or I guess both her friends gave her for her birthday in 93.
Yeah.
But the repetition, to me, I really love that in the storytelling. So when she's in the mall with her friends, when in the 93, they go to the photo booth. When she's in the mall with her friends in 94, the different friends, she's like, hey, all right, let's go to the photo booth. They're like, yeah, fine, whatever. The mean girl, cool girl thing. And it's, I feel like that repetition really kind of brings the story in, or brings the story around every time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I kind of felt the same way about that, like the repetition you said, and and you were saying like a kind of like the 94 was like her, what she was wanting more so than it being perfect. And maybe it wasn't perfect in a sense, but because she was kind of like obviously admired most Kate or James. What was the girl's name?
Katie
that went missing.
The main
was
girl.
Kate
or
that
Kate
went missing.
Wallace, yeah.
Yeah, you could tell like right off the bat because she was kind of looking at it from afar, and like she kind of comes up on her and was like, nice purse," and she's like, "Thanks." you know?
It's my birthday today.
And right, like right there, that kind of like started to build a little suspicion for me, kind of where it went further on in. But yeah, I mean, I agree. It's just like the way it kind of jumped back and forth between the years. And like at first I was confused, thinking it was just like a different person almost, because I was like, but maybe that's just like they did such a good job kind of making it seem like a different character.
Well, she has her hair super short in the 95. They did a pretty good job of aging her as well, because she has braces in 93. And then 94, obviously, she's kind of the more popular girl, so she has her hair straightened. It's down, she's wearing more makeup. Yeah. So I could see that, they did a good job, I think, of 80. I think she's even wearing contacts in 93 or 94. I mean,
yeah, makeup and all that.
Yeah, she's not wearing her glasses that she had. Did she have glasses? Now I'm second guessing myself. Remember.
In 20. Oh, you know what? Yeah, she does.
93,
yeah,
right?
She does.
Okay. Yeah. The ugly girl in the show or the movie, that's always what they do. It's like, take off your glasses and you become hot,
Yeah, and it was a very 90s kind of look with the straight hair and the choker kind of thing. And
absolutely, yeah.
It's the Princess Diaries all over again.
Right. Or not another teen movie type deal.
I did notice that kind of like in 93, right? She's like the awkward, like nerdy. But also when they were doing the scavenger hunt and they talk about going into the house, like she's hesitant. She's kind of like really
the illegal thing.
Yeah, she's really like nervous about it, and she's not really a risk taker, I would say, or kind of like not like standing up for herself, but kind of, like she's not a risk taker.
Peer pressure, absolutely. Yeah.
And then at the end, like just in those 2 years, obviously she changes a lot, and there's it doesn't give a lot of details going into that last year. It kind of alludes to like her having something to do with Kate going missing. But I thought she killed her, to be honest. I was like, she killed her.
Yeah, so let's actually talk about that for a minute. The list that they make, and they want to do something illegal. Mallory is like, I want to do something illegal this summer. And she's totally against it at first. And I think this is a really kind of important part of the show, where they go in and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna break into this house," and she steals. Her dad's a realtor, right? I think that's what he does, or he's an home inspector. I think he's a realtor. They steal the key from the dad because they're just gonna go break into this house. And were they going to play hide and seek or something in the house?
Like nothing.
Yeah, 15-year-olds playing hide and seek in a house. That part was a little strange, but anyways. When that whole scene, I feel like that's kind of what made me, what I was saying earlier was a bit predictable.
Yeah.
So she meets the guy that's in there, and obviously he's a creep.
Immediately.
We can tell right away, he's looking at her, and they make a point to show his interest in her, but they say that he's a principal, so you can kind of write that off. To me, though, when she's talking about the water spot in the basement, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I was going to tear that carpet up in the basement anyways." As soon as I heard that, I was like, he's involved with this, whatever happened, because they start alluding before that to the fact that this Kate girl has gone missing, or is gone. They don't really say why, because all of a sudden her boyfriend's dating Jeanette.
Yeah.
As soon as we see this creepy dude talking about tearing up the carpet in his basement, I was like, this dude is making a torture basement. Like he's making a dungeon, if you will.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh wow, remodeling. Just like new house. Nothing to see here.
Yeah, and as soon as she's done with that, she's like, that was amazing. And then she's kind of over the whole fear of illegal. because she gets that thrill.
Yeah.
I don't notice, like I said, I don't notice details, but when she was walking away and she was like this, she was smiling and you could just tell she was, I was like, this is sus. This is really sus.
And then she keeps that key.
Yeah, I was going to say, part of me was wondering if that's when she saw what she saw in the basement, or if there was another time she came back and that's when this happened, or I don't know, maybe they'll explain that further in, but
I'm pretty sure it's going to be that she goes back because she keeps the key.
Yeah.
And if she would have seen it there, because she goes in the basement with him, you know, I feel like if he knew that she knew right away, like I almost feel like there's going to be a bit of a connection with the two of them, like almost. I don't know if maybe it'll be a romantic connection or what it'll be. And I'll say I really hope they don't show or kind of, I don't know if I would be comfortable with them kind of showing her getting kidnapped, Kate getting kidnapped, and maybe the way that she's treated down there.
Right, that would get a little
I feel
dark.
like they can still tell this story. Yeah, I feel like they can tell this story without making it grotesque and kind of pointless in that aspect of showing that kind of thing. But I feel like she's going to go back. And I think when it initially happens, she's not going to know about it and then eventually see it. But she kept that key in 93.
Yeah.
That rhymes. She like is smiling and she puts it in her little lockbox so that, you know, she's going to go back, you know, at some point.
I like kind of just feeding off what you said. Like, I definitely agree. Like, I as soon as I saw that was like one of my big concerns. I was like, I hope that they don't do like kind of like an unfortunate kind of theme in movies like this where it's like the sexual assault for shock value. And yeah, I hope that they don't, like, especially as like popular as the show is. Like, apparently it was one of like Forerunner's like best like premieres. Like, it was, hang on, I can tell you. I'm gonna like read this in the beginning. So
a show that comes to mind is the 13 Reasons Why, and I didn't see that show for the most part. I watched a couple episodes, but obviously that show was dealing with a lot more kind of, it was mainly about the suicide of a girl. But the kid gets assaulted at one point, the boy does, and it just felt like not really necessary to the story. And I get maybe wanting to have that in your show or wanting that to be part of your story. And I can see that some things that it's a necessary storytelling element, maybe. I just personally I don't think that should ever be, I don't know. If you're going to tell a story, it can be done right. It can be done tastefully to an extent, you know. It doesn't have to be just in your face for no real reason. As long as it's serving the story, then yeah. But if and that scene to me just seemed kind of pointless. And I know they got a little bit of flack for that.
I've actually never watched that show because of like, I remember when it came out, like it was just like, everyone's like, it has like a lot of like triggering scenes, like no trigger warning. That was a huge thing. And so like, I never like got into that show because I'm not like, I really, really like don't like those, I don't like promoting those types of shows. And I'm kind of a big like person that's like, if you like spend your time like or spend like your money promoting something, then especially like if you don't ethically like agree with it, then what are you doing like with your time in life?
I
don't see this show going that route. Personally, I don't see it. I could see it getting a little bit into that, but not enough to where it's like kind of I'm uncomfortable and I don't kind of want to watch this part. And hopefully that's the case.
And I think it'll still serve the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I feel like it'll be for the story and not necessarily. And I don't mean to keep harping on the same chord, but that's I think the line that needs to be drawn is if it's serving a point for the story and storytelling elements, then it can still have a place. Yeah. As uncomfortable as it may be, because sometimes those stories do need to be told.
Do you think that there was like maybe some, not like, I don't know if like foreshadowing is the right word, but at the end, whenever it's like announced that it is the assistant principal, Martin Harris, and the family's like, oh, like, we're so glad like you didn't have those problems, Jeanette. You know, like, if you guys remember that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was alluding to as well, is where I almost feel like he does have some more involvement with Jeanette than maybe shown. And I'm also, in the legal standpoint, I'm curious what exactly she would be in court for. Like, unless she had a direct hand in her getting kidnapped, but from the story that Kate tells on TV, it's that Jeanette knew and never said anything because she was taking her place. But what is the legal, like, what is illegal about that portion? Like, I feel like her defense would have to say is she feared that there would be retaliation if she said anything. She was terrified of this guy and didn't know how to say it. It's a kid, a 15-year-old kid.
And that's, I don't know,
or 16-year-old, I guess 15 at the time, yeah. And that's what I do think what you were saying, how is it foreshadowing that she's like, oh, I'd hate for that to happen. Maybe she does go back because she liked the thrill and she thought she could get away with it, and then he, maybe attacks her as well.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what the actual court case is going to be, because they don't talk about that in the first episode.
I will say that something I did read is that every episode is from a different person's perspective. So
interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm very interested in kind of like watching the other episodes to see what's going on.
Did you only see the first episode as well?
Yeah, that's why it's just kind of like, that's why I asked you guys. I was like, I don't know, like, because I don't want to be like, well, I know something y'all don't know. Like, that's no fun, you know?
Well, I just thought you had already watched it. I didn't realize that you didn't see it.
Yeah, I just watched the first episode, and...
You saying that, though, that makes sense, because so there's the scene when the boyfriend is sitting outside of Kate's house, or outside of Jeanette's house. Yeah. And she's like, her friend calls her, Elias, or Vince, Vince calls her and is like, hey, he's sitting outside your house again. He's like, what if he tries to hurt you? I could see that being told. So I wonder if it's going to be the same situation, and that may be how they can stretch the story.
Yes, like Twilight and Midnight Sun.
What is that?
Twilight? Okay, so Twilight is a book series, actually turned movie series, by Stephanie Meyers. It's about a vampire.
It's a vampire thing? The sparkling vampires?
Yes, you should. Yeah. Honestly, like, I'm surprised you don't know more about your culture, Darth.
Oh my god. I can't even.
But yeah, so no, that was a thing. Like, I remember way back when I read, like, Twilight. That's the first, like, encounter I ever had with that, is they were, like, released, like, chapters of Midnight Sun, which is Twilight from Edward's point of view. And there was, like, little things in Twilight that I noticed in there. Listen, Midnight Sun was just re-released, okay? And I keep Twilight in my car, along with my board games, in case I keep that thing on me.
Why do you have a hoarder's nest in your car?
It's in my trunk. I have a trunk organizer. I've got my books.
That doesn't make it less of a hoarder's nest.
I have my books. I have my board games. I have my car snacks. It's all good in the hood. So towards the end of the episode, Jeanette's lawyers keep showing up and talking to her, and then at the end of, like, it kind of flashes back to, like, 93. Or not 93, sorry, 94.
Yeah, and she's sitting there with, like, her friends and stuff,
yeah,
right?
She's with her friends and...
Or her new friends.
Yeah, not her real friends. But they call and they're like, they found Kate, and they go over to the house.
When they first say that, she's like, oh, Jeanette is like, did they say who killed her? Mm-hmm. Really help. So I feel like that's kind of alluding to maybe she thought for some reason, and that was the thing I was saying, I feel like maybe she has more of a connection with the principal or vice principal.
I didn't even catch that, because I thought she was dead. Yeah. So I was like, yep, who killed her? And I didn't even catch that she had said that. So yeah. She
was like, well, did they say who killed her? Or where'd they find her body? So I almost think that when she found him, he was like, yeah, I'll take care of her for you. And like, maybe she was also attacked in that situation. But yeah.
So I definitely think she's going back. Like, she's been back maybe a couple times. That's what I think, because it seems like...
at very least once.
Like she's like, this is girl and I want her out of my life and whatever. Who knows, or I want her life or something.
Maybe she's the reason why Kate got captured. Maybe Jeanette's the reason.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe even before the little interaction at the house. I guess they didn't know each other then.
No, they just met at the house, yeah. I think maybe they built a relationship and then realized that he was a creeper.
Yeah, I agree. I just kind of like talking about the court case. I'm kind of interested to know as well. I'm kind of thinking that either has something to do with like what happened after the interview where Kate like accuses her of knowing. I don't know if she kind of like goes off the rails a little bit and does something, Or maybe there's some because they say that the principal dies like at the scene, so I don't know if maybe there's some evidence.
Yeah, there's a shootout.
I don't know if there's like some evidence that kind of like.
So her lawyer says that it's your word against hers at one point. So like they're trying to make her look sympathetic. So clearly Kate is still around enough. But that's what I was saying earlier, is I'm confused at what exactly the crime is there. Like, is it illegal not to report a kidnapping? Does that immediately make you an accomplice, I think?
In Texas.
So wouldn't that be like aiding and abetting or something like that? I think is...
Maybe, but I would be hard-pressed. Maybe in the 90s it would be a little bit different, but I'd be hard-pressed to see a child be convicted of that. And they even say at one point, when Kate is on TV, she's like, my team of lawyers suggested I didn't mention this. And the only thing I can think of is maybe at that point they were building a case, perhaps, and didn't want Jeanette to even know. But, the fact that I can't imagine what the crime would be, right?
Right.
Because there was recently a deal where some kids watched a man drown to death. Mm-hmm. He died from drowning, and they were filming and laughing about it. And they got taken to court, but they were found not guilty because it's, what were they to do? Swim out there and save him, call somebody? But they had no legal obligation to do any of those things.
Right.
So I'm just curious what the legal standpoint of that is.
So if you legally know something's going to happen, you don't even have to be present. You can be charged for being an accomplice if you had any kind of planning or any know about like something like a murder or like a crime that's going to happen. If you had any kind of or proof that there's any kind of conversation that was had, or like I guess having that kind of hand in it, you can be charged as an accomplice, as far as I know.
And maybe that's what the whole deal of it's your word against hers and trying to make Jeanette seem more sympathetic.
I'm sure it's pretty messy.
Jeanette has that
too,
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, there's already blowback regardless of what happens with this court case, that Jeanette is, ostracized already by her entire society, basically.
The most hated person in America from the
the nation,
Yeah, which I feel like that's a bit, maybe in the 90s that could have been something, but I feel like that's dramatic. Nowadays, something like that would happen,
right.
And we knew that some other teenage girl knew and didn't say anything. I feel like they would just be like, I mean, Casey Anthony's still alive and not the most hated person in the world. So
right. Yeah, I mean, I already kind of covered what I thought. I guess kind of as a group, we kind of agree that there's definitely some prior interaction with the principal, maybe before the crime happens or whatever. And I think it's interesting.
Even during the crime, too, yeah.
And I think the whole perspective thing, which I didn't know about, is interesting, because we might even see that maybe the boyfriend had something to do with it. Him sitting outside with a gun in his glove compartment, and the pictures, from the mall they took in the mall. And, that's kind of interesting. Maybe it makes him... But he does, like, kind of freak out and, like, slap her or something, right? Or punch her or something.
That was a
he punches her,
yeah. So that's...
them hands be bisexual. Would you recommend it to people?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I kind of went into it thinking this probably isn't going to be my thing, but yeah, I mean, we were like, me and my girlfriend were like, yeah, I kind of want to watch the rest of this, right? So I definitely will. It kind of had, like those. They did a good job of kind of conveying the era that it was in and all that, which I appreciated. So yeah, definitely would recommend it for sure.
I'm skeptical with the perception thing or the different perspectives. Mm-hmm. I could definitely see at least one season. I hope they don't overdo it.
Right.
But I'll probably watch the rest of the series when it comes out. I'll probably wait a little bit until more episodes are out, just because I like to binge watch things. I don't really like to wait and I'm not a wait and see type guy. I've only consumed a little bit, so I can wait at this point. But once I get started, I want to just watch the entire series, in one sitting.
Yeah,
like a crazy person.
Well, and so it's fresh too. I mean, you kind of take a couple days off, and it kind of like some of that
fades away.
Yeah,
but I would definitely recommend it as well. I think it's the storytelling in the very least is pretty unique. I've not really seen. I mean, I feel like I've seen this story before. You know, this is the kind of story you've seen in movies and shows at least once or twice. There's, you know, the nerd girl gets popular. One thing that I'm thinking of is like in Pretty Little Liars, pretty similar to this for the most part. The story is similar-ish, but it's not told in the same way. And I'm a stickler for storytelling,
I
I would definitely recommend it.
You watch?
Have you never seen Pretty Little Liars?
I've been thinking that this whole time, but I was like, I'm in the wrong. Like, know your audience. Like, read the room. I was like, nobody here.
I've never seen it.
I don't remember why I watched it, but isn't that similar? What happens in that? Like, someone dies and like missing. Someone else gets popular.
Yeah, she goes missing. Well, it's like the friend group, and she goes missing. Allison, I think, goes missing, and then but come to find out she's alive, and she comes back later. And like
okay.
But they
literally the same show.
That's the thing. Yeah, I've been thinking that every time we talked about kind of like we hope that they just kind of it's like a limited series basically. I'm like I hope they don't like botch it the way they did Pretty Little Liars because that went on way too long.
Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it. So what do you got? What's your recommendation? You yay or nay? I also thought you had seen it beforehand, too.
No, I haven't. Like, I'd been wanting to see it, so I was like, yeah, we can all watch it together. So I'll have somebody to talk about it with. But yeah, no, as of right now, as long as I would recommend it with, like, the stipulations that, like, the trigger, like, with the trigger warnings and kind of, like, I hope that they don't, like, stretch it out. But I feel like they've got a good, solid base where we are. And that it can either be like a really, really good series or they can just make it like every other kind of series just like it. And I really hope that they don't. Like, I feel like that they have the opportunity to do something different and kind of be better. But I guess we'll see. And I like to binge too. I don't know about Mikey, but like maybe we can, after like the first season is out, we can binge it and come back and like, because like this is the first episode and we can come back at the end of season 1 and kind of talk about it.
I have a hard time binging things just because I'm old and I fall asleep if I sit down too long and watch something.
Dang boomer.
Okay, boomer.
I have to like take breaks and then come back to it. And I'm like, all right, I can finish this.
Yeah, but thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode for Geek Squawk,
where the geeks talk.